At some point, you stop waiting for emotions to make sense. Not because you figured them out, not because you mastered them, not because you became calmer or more aware. You stop waiting because they arrive whether you're ready or not. Emotions don't ask permission. They don't check context. They don't coordinate with plans. They don't wait for understanding. They show up when they show up. For a long time, that might have felt like a problem. Something to manage, something to regulate, something to interpret correctly. An emotion would appear and immediately trigger a second response. Why do I feel this? What does this mean? Is this appropriate? Is this old stuff coming back? Am I doing something wrong? The emotion itself was rarely the hardest part. The response to it was the need to place it, to justify it, to fix it, to learn from it. But slowly, without a decision, that extra layer begins to loosen. The emotion arrives. And instead of pausing everything to deal with it, life continues. You're sad while making coffee. You're irritated while answering emails. You're anxious while driving. You're lighthearted while doing something routine. The emotion doesn't get a separate room. It moves through the same space as everything else. And nothing breaks. This is often when people worry they're suppressing something. Because the old model said emotions must be processed. That if you don't stop and attend to them, they'll get stuck. But what if what kept emotions stuck was the constant interruption? What if stopping life every time an emotion appeared taught the system that emotions were emergencies? Here, emotions aren't emergencies. They're weather. They move. They shift. They change without instruction. And because you're no longer holding them still to examine them, they pass more easily. You don't have to let go of emotions. They let go on their own. That's the part that surprises people. You don't do anything different. You don't breathe them away. You don't reframe them. You don't accept them properly. You just don't reorganize your day around them. And because of that, emotions don't get promoted to authority. They don't decide the meaning of the day. They don't become signals about who you are. They're experiences moving through a larger field. You can feel anger without becoming an angry person. You can feel sadness without being someone who is sad. You can feel joy without thinking it needs to last. That separation is subtle, but it changes everything. Emotion no longer equals identity. Emotion equals sensation, movement, energy passing through. You might notice that emotions become more specific, less vague, less blended. Instead of a general sense of heaviness, you feel irritation about one thing. Instead of, I'm anxious, you feel tension in your chest for a few minutes. Instead of, I'm off, you feel fatigue, because you're not abstracting them into stories. You're feeling them as they are. And because of that, they resolve faster. Not instantly, naturally. This is where people sometimes say emotions feel muted. They're not muted. They're no longer amplified by interpretation. There's no feedback loop, no spiral, no echo chamber. An emotion arises. It does its thing. It leaves. And because it leaves, you trust it more. You stop bracing for it. You stop preparing. You stop thinking, if this comes up, what will I do? You already know the answer. Nothing. You'll feel it. Then life will continue. That's it. This doesn't mean emotions never get intense. They can. But intensity doesn't mean danger. It doesn't mean something went wrong. It means energy moved strongly. And strong movement still moves. It doesn't need to be held. It doesn't need to be framed. It doesn't need to be used. You don't need to make meaning out of pain for it to pass. That's a hard belief to let go of. Because many people learned that suffering must be justified. That pain must produce insight. That emotion must lead somewhere. But emotions don't have goals. They don't exist to teach. They exist to move. And when you let them do that, they don't linger. They don't accumulate. They don't turn into moods that last for days. They don't turn into identities. You may notice you stop saying things like, I'm feeling a lot lately. I'm working through something. I'm processing. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing needs managing. You're not in your emotions. They're happening in you. And that distinction matters. You can be tired and still function. You can be sad and still laugh. You can be anxious and still complete a task. Emotions no longer demand exclusivity. They share space. That's what integration looks like here. Not emotional mastery. Emotional coexistence. You don't privilege emotions. You don't suppress them. You let them be part of the background. Like sound, like light, sometimes louder, sometimes softer, always moving. This also changes how you relate to other people's emotions. You're less reactive, not because you're detached, because you're not mirroring everything. Someone else's mood doesn't require you to fix it. It doesn't require you to absorb it. It doesn't require you to explain it. You can be present without merging. You can care without carrying. That's a relief, especially if you spent a long time managing emotional environments, trying to keep things smooth, trying to anticipate reactions, trying to prevent discomfort. Here, discomfort is allowed, not invited, allowed. It can exist without becoming the center. You may notice your emotional language changes. You don't say, "I feel like," as often. You don't narrate emotional states. You don't report them internally. You just feel. And feeling doesn't require commentary. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you honest. You're no longer translating emotion into something palatable. You're letting it be raw and brief. That rawness doesn't scare you anymore, because you've seen it move. Again and again. You know it doesn't stay. That knowledge isn't intellectual. It's lived. Your body knows emotions don't trap you, so it stops bracing. And when the body stops bracing, emotions pass faster. That's the loop breaking, not through control, through trust. This episode isn't saying emotions don't matter. They matter as experience. They just don't get promoted to meaning. They don't define you. They don't guide your life. They don't need to be solved. They show up. They move. They leave. And life keeps going. You don't need permission to feel them. And they don't need permission to pass. They never did. Emotions don't ask permission. They don't need it. They were never waiting for it.